In Gabon, army officers say that they have seized the power. Australia all set to hold landmark national referendum on October 14. European Union fleet sends 407 firefighters to help Greece counter the fire north of the city of Alexandroupolis. France to ban children from wearing abaya dress in state-run schools. What are walking leaves? Nobel Foundation reverse decision to invite Russia to award ceremony. Indian origin economist Shanmugaratnam wins the presidential election in Singapore. World Sanskrit Day is being celebrated in Colombo. JAIS, the world's most advanced Arabic large language model released. Pakistan government chose to import 1 million metric tons of sugar to replenish country's reduced supply. In Africa's Gabon, 12 army officers on 30th August 2023 appeared on national television to announce that they have seized the power. They also announced the cancellation of the recent election results and dissolution of all the institutions. They also added that country's borders have been closed until further notification. The sounds of loud gunfire were heard in the country's capital, Libreville. There was no immediate response by the government to the soldiers' announcement. The whereabouts of Gabon's president Ali Bongo are also unknown. Among the soldiers were the members of the Republican Guard, as well as the soldiers of the regular army and police officers. The apparent coup came shortly after Mr. Bongo was re elected for a third term, which the opposition argued was fraudulent. This will make it eighth such coup in Africa in the past 3 years if confirmed. It is the latest in the series of coups that have challenged governments with ties to France, the region's former colonizer. Australia is all set to hold a landmark national referendum in October to recognize country's indigenous people in its constitution. More than 17 million registered voters across the country will vote on October 14 to decide whether to amend the constitution in order to establish a new advisory body for Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people. The historic referendum called Voice to Parliament, if approved, would recognize Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people in the country's constitution. It will also establish a permanent body for them to give advice on laws that relate to them. This was announced by Prime Minister Anthony Albanese. He said that every Australian will have a once in a generation chance to bring their country together and to change it for the better. The referendum will need support from a majority of Australians and a majority of voters in at least 4 of its 6 states for it to be successful. Australia is the only Commonwealth country that has never signed a treaty with its indigenous people. The European Union fleet has sent 7 planes and 1 helicopter to help Greece counter the fire north of the city of Alexandroupolis, along with 407 firefighters. The EU Civil Protection Service said the fire has burned over 810 square kilometers. It said this wildfire is the largest of EU since 2000, when the European Forest Fire Information System began recording the data. Meanwhile, the Greece Fire Service said that the blaze was still out of control in the northeast region's Daria National Park, a major sanctuary for birds of prey. Since it began on 19th of August, the blaze has claimed the lives of 20 people. Greece has been ravaged by numerous fires this summer, which the government attributes to climate change. France will ban children from wearing abaya, the loose fitting, full length robe worn by some of the Muslim women in state run schools. The move comes after months of debate over wearing of abaya in French schools. Talking to the media, the country's education minister, Gabriel Attal, said the rule will be applied as soon as the new school year starts on the 4th of September. Mr. Attal said that when a child walks into a classroom, one should not be able to identify the pupil's religion just by looking at them. He said secularism means the freedom to emancipate oneself through school. He argued Abhaya is a religious gesture aimed at testing the resistance of republic towards the secular sanctuary that school must constitute. France has a strict ban on religious signs in state schools and government buildings, arguing that they violate secular laws. Wearing a headscarf has been banned since 2004 in state run schools. In 2010, France banned the wearing of full face veils in public, which provoked anger in France's 5 million strong Muslim community. An international research team recently described 7 previously unknown species of leaf insects, also known as walking leaves. Walking leaves, also called leaf insects, are insects that look very similar to leaves. There are any of more than 50 species of flat, usually green insects that are known for their striking leaf like appearance. They feed on plants and typically inhabit densely vegetated areas. Their natural range extends from islands in the Indian Ocean across parts of mainland South Asia and Southeast Asia to Papua New Guinea and Australia in the Western Pacific. They measure roughly 28 to 100 in body length. Males tend to be smaller than females. They are mostly brown or green. Some slightly have serrated edges like nibbled leaves. They sway and rock back and forth, imitating the motion of leaves in the breeze. Female walking leaves cannot fly. Males can fly short distances. The arms and legs of walking leaves can regenerate. These insects reproduce sexually with females laying eggs. The eggs often resemble seeds or plant structures. August 28, 1963, the March on Washington occurred as over 250,000 persons attended a civil rights rally in Washington, D.C., at which Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. made his now famous I Have a Dream speech. August 31st, 1997, Britain's Princess Diana died at the age of 36 from massive internal injuries suffered in a high speed car crash, reportedly after being pursued by photographers. The crash occurred shortly after midnight in Paris inside a tunnel. The Nobel Foundation has reversed a much criticized decision to invite Russia, Belarus, and Iran to this year's award ceremony in Stockholm. Russia and its ally Belarus were not invited last year following Russia's offensive of Ukraine, while Iran was left out over its human rights record. The award ceremony is held in Stockholm on 10th December, the anniversary of the death of Alfred Nobel, the man who established the fund. Indian origin economist and former senior minister Tharman Shanmugaratnam has registered a landslide victory in Singapore's presidential election. The results were announced at past midnight on Friday. The minister won over 70% of votes in the country's first contested presidential polls since 2011. 66-year-old Shanmugaratnam had served as Singapore's deputy prime minister from 2011 to 2019. He joined politics in 2001. He has also worked in public sector and held ministerial positions. Shanmugaratnam will be Singapore's third Indian origin president. Earlier, the polls ended with over 2.7 million voters casting their ballots. Singaporeans voted in large numbers on Friday in the country's first contested presidential election in more than a decade. World Sanskrit Day was celebrated in Colombo by the cultural arm of High Commission of India, Swami Vivekananda Cultural Center. The event was organized in collaboration with 12 universities and institutes of Sri Lanka. The event marked the silver jubilee of Swami Vivekananda Cultural Center and featured a collaborative effort with several prestigious Sri Lankan universities. Sanskrit is among the oldest surviving languages and is a sacred language in several traditions. It is a repository of ancient knowledge, including Vedas and other renowned literary works such as Yoga Shastra. Sanskrit is also known as the mother of many present day languages such as Hindi and Sinhala. This celebration of Sanskrit underscores the profound cultural and linguistic ties between India and Sri Lanka, emphasizing the importance of Sanskrit as a shared heritage. Inception, a unit of Abu Dhabi AI company G42, has released JAIS, the world's most advanced Arabic large language model. JAIS is a bilingual Arabic English model that has been trained on a massive data set of text and code. It can be used for a variety of tasks such as machine translation, test summarization, and question and answering. It was trained on Condor Galaxy, the world's largest AI supercomputer, using 116 million Arabic tokens and 279 billion English tokens. It is also open source, which means that anyone can use it or contribute to its development. JAIS is available to download on the Hugging Face machine learning platform. The release of JAIS is a significant step forward for the development of AI in the Arabic world. It is a powerful tool that can be used to improve the lives of millions of people. Potential applications of JAIS include machine translation, which can be used to translate text from Arabic to English and vice versa. The Pakistan's government has chosen to import 1 million metric tons of sugar to replenish the country's reduced supply after being deceived by sugar mill owners about a sufficient domestic stock. The federal government will import sugar at an inflated price of 220 Pakistan rupees per kilogram, and the burden will be passed on to the population, which is already suffering from inflation and will be forced to pay exorbitant prices. The current situation is a result of sugar mill owners misleading the government, securing permission for export by reassuring that the country has sufficient stock for domestic use. This has led to the hazardous scenario that exists today. Even though the Punjab Food Department has a carryover surplus stock of sugar of almost 1 million metric tons, a spokeswoman from the department has warned of a potential sugar crisis in the coming days. Mary Shelley was an English novelist who wrote the Gothic novel Frankenstein or the modern Prometheus, which is considered as an early example of science fiction. She also edited and promoted the works of her husband, the romantic poet and philosopher P.B. Shelley. Her father was the political philosopher William Godwin, and her mother was the philosopher and women's rights advocate Mary Wollstonecraft. Until 1970s, Shelley was known mainly for her efforts to publish her husband's works and for her novel Frankenstein, which remains widely read and has inspired many theatrical and film adaptations. Shelley's works often argue that cooperation and sympathy, particularly as practiced by women in the family, were the ways to reform civil society. This view was a direct challenge to the individualistic, romantic ethos promoted by P.B. Shelley and the Enlightenment political theories attributed by her father, William Godwin.